Hi, this is Mr. Loeffler, and I wish I was going on this trip with you guys up at Lake of the Woods, but I can't make it this year. So this short presentation for the SSI group is on weather at Lake of the Woods. The first type of front we are going to explore is called a warm front. As you can see in this image here, warm air is coming into the area, rising up and over the more dense cold air. Now the air would be moving left to right in this picture, or west to east typically. When a warm front occurs, typically the air is flowing from the south, where it is warmer, closer from the equator, of course. Now, as warm air comes in and invades the area, it usually brings moisture with it. Now, this moisture is going to rest on that boundary separating the cold air from the warm air, which you can see in this general region right here. Now, here is a bird's eye view of that warm front. Notice the warm air is behind the front, coming from the south, bringing in warm air, and it's pushing out the colder air on the north side of that front boundary. Now the weather on this frontal side of this boundary is going to be a long day of rain occurring from stratus nimbus clouds, or nimbostratus clouds, also known as. Now to help you predict if a warm front is happening, in your weather log or your journal, you could document what kind of clouds you see during the day. Now at any given moment you probably won't know you're looking at a warm front or a cold front until several days have passed. Now the first kind of clouds that typically come in with a warm front is high altitude cirrus clouds. They look like blowing snow in the sky. Within the next day you will see cirrostratus clouds, which are also high altitude clouds but is more like a blanket. A lot of times you'll see a sun that looks a lot like this, or a moon that looks a lot like this, where you get a veil that surrounds it. The next type of cloud that you would have is called an altostratus, which is a middle elevation stratus cloud. Kind of one of those gloom and doom days, to be honest with you, and you're just waiting for it to rain. And lastly, the event finally happens, which is when we have nimbostratus. Nimbo is a Latin word that means rain, and stratus means layers. So we just have a big blanket of layered raining clouds. In the wintertime, this would of course be snow. This is what most of our snowstorms are in the wintertime. Now after a long extended period of rain, we will start to experience some good weather. And hopefully this is what it looks like. Now the other type of front, which is associated with severe weather, is called a cold front. As you can see in this image here, from left to right, cold air is coming in, once again staying on the bottom, and pushing that warm air up and out of the way. Now the trigger for this type of front is that warm air being pushed up. Whenever warm air rises, we get the most fierce of all clouds, which is called cumulonimbus. Here is a bird's eye view of that same picture of a cold front. So behind the cold front we have colder temperatures, and in front of the cold front we have warmer temperatures that are being pushed out of the way. So this warm air would be moving in that direction as the cold air comes in. One thing I'd like to point out is that you can see that our air is coming from the northwest, which is where a majority of our cold air sits on our planet, near the poles. Now to help you predict what kind of front you're seeing, this is the first kind of cloud you would see with a cold front. Within a day of these types of clouds is typically where you would see the severe weather happening. Now the first type of cloud you would see is a cirrus cloud. Then the next type of cloud you would see within hours of seeing those high altitude cirrus clouds is altocumulus. Alto meaning middle elevation and cumulus meaning rows of puffy clouds. This is a tall tale sign that a potential cold front is on its way. Now this is what you don't want to see up at Lake of the Woods, is a cold front. And seeing storms like this usually mean time to get off the lake. Now this is when you know the event of that cumulonimbus cloud is approaching and is within miles of your place. Here what we see is a shelf cloud, commonly confused for a wall cloud, but it is not. This shelf cloud, which you can see right in this region right here, is the boundary that separates the warm air from the cold air. Underneath it you'll be able to see a tremendous amount of precipitation falling, which gives us that purple color, or that purple dark gray color. You will notice a tremendous difference in temperature once that shelf cloud comes over you. The good news is, when that cold front has passed, we'll have nice weather again, and the sky will look like this, if not perfectly clear skies. Now there is a strange phenomena that does happen up at Lake of the Woods as a result of all the water that is up there. Now, in Lake of the Woods, types of storms that are called advection storms or popcorn thunderstorms do occur. They are very small thunderstorms that will produce small downbursts of rain, likely with hail and lightning. So if you see something like this approaching, hop off the lake and wait till it passes. Now when it comes to pressure systems, there's only two types, a low pressure and a high pressure. Here what you're seeing is a low pressure system in the northern hemisphere. Low for lousy is what I always say. These types of pressures usually bring in poor weather and fronts with them. Now as you can see, the air is moving counterclockwise around this low pressure system. And not only is it moving counterclockwise, the air is all being pulled in towards this low pressure as it rises up off the surface. Now that rising up off the surface is what produces severe weather. And remember, rising air always produces severe weather. Now if this low pressure is approaching you, and let's say your campsite is right here, there's my terrible tent, but let's say that's your campsite, and as this low pressure system's coming towards you, the air from the south is the first thing you're going to notice. Now as that air comes from the south, it's going to be warm. But eventually what will happen is your home will be on top of this low pressure, and then eventually you'll be on the left side of this low pressure, which means the air is coming from the north or northwest, which will be a cooling effect. Now anytime a low pressure happens, it is going to be raining, and so just expect it. But sometimes noticing those wind shifts from south, then after it passes to the north, is a tall tale sign that a low pressure has been close by. The other type of pressure system is called a high pressure. High for happy is what I say. When a high pressure occurs, it brings in beautiful weather. In fact, if you're going to get a sunburn, this is where it's going to happen. Now as you can see in this picture, air is moving clockwise instead now. And not only is it going clockwise, but it's going away from the high pressure. This is where air is actually descending from the upper atmosphere and squeezing the air at the ground, which is why we call it a high pressure. Now, air on the east side, so if we set up your tent again, so here's your tent. If you're on the east side of that high pressure, you'll notice air is predominantly coming from the north. So air is going to be coming down and bringing in cooled air. Now as that high pressure passes you, what you will notice is air is now going to be coming from the south instead, and as a result bringing in warmer weather. But both scenarios give us no fronts, so as a result you would not expect precipitation. That's all I got for you guys. Have a good trip and be safe. And remember, if you see lightning nearby, definitely get off the lake.